Yes, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience there. Could I just have a mover and a seconder to resume standing orders? Councillor Nicholas and Councillor Forsyth, thank you. All those in favour? Carried. I call on the CEO. Oh, just before I start, could I just remind people to please ensure that their mobile devices are turned off or on silent, please. Thank you. Mr. Barron?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, all council meetings are filmed with both video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area, from Ms. Cook through to Councillor Pearce specifically. By speaking during question time or at any time, you consent to your voice and any comments you make being recorded, because audio is captured from the entire room. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and questions on agenda items will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reason behind recording council meetings is, of course, to hold us more accountable to our community by having as accurate a record of meetings as possible, and also to improve transparency of council's decision making for those that are unable to attend council meetings. The full meeting is currently being streamed live on council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and we will be available from tomorrow morning as an archived copy on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to item 2, councillors.
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. Item 3.1, Ordinary Council meeting, 2nd of March. Recommendation that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting M2 held on the 7th of March 2017 as circulated be confirmed. Move and second. Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Knapstein. All those in favour? Carried. Item 5, obituaries and congratulations. From my left, Councillor Pearce.
Nothing.
Councillor Nicholas. Councillor.
Yes, also. Pardon me. Yeah, I've got one congratulations, and the actual congratulations goes to all the outdoor staff through you. Charlie, an ex-councillor from Echuca, came through the Shire just recently and just commented very favourably upon the just the way the towns all look. They went all the way through to Romeo, and they just said how fantastic it looked, and he said Echuca never looked quite like that. So congratulations to all those guys.
Further than Warlow. No.
Councillor Knapstein? No, nothing? Okay, thank you, and nothing from myself. Declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. Neil? Apologies, where's that?
You missed apologies.
I did?
Yeah, just back here at item 4.
Oh, apologies. Yeah, it just went straight past it, thank you. Apologies from Councillor Roper and Councillor Keeble. Public questions on notice. Please note the questions on notice will be limited to 2 questions per person, and they can be written or from the floor. I have one I'll deal with. Question on notice. There it is. It's more of a statement than a question, although there is a statement at the end of it. It's from the Upper Kiowa Valley Community Association, Inc. Given that the bridge across the Ovens River at Germantown has 40 kilometres per hour speed limit restrictions for a very short distance. When there is little or no pedestrian traffic, why is it so difficult to ensure either reduce the speed limit at the Longans Bridge Caravan Park to 60 kilometres per hour or use an alternative such as speed humps? Will it take the death of a child before the Alpine Shire Council acts on such a dangerous stretch of road? And that is from the chairperson of the UK CBA. I think, Mr. Bird, you might have a response to that. I would have one, but I think you've got a technical one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we received a petition to reduce the speed limit for this area in question. That was tabled at the February council meeting. Council officers have been working with the proponent of the petition and other stakeholders, and that'll be a recommendation put at item 8.2.3.
Yeah. Again, we'll deal with that later in the evening, and it's worth noting that the bridge across the Ovens River at Germantown is a one-way bridge as well, so that does significantly alter the speed limit across there anyway. There are no other questions on notice. I'll take questions from the floor, please. Gentleman on my left, Mr. Dyer.
Your minutes of your meeting by the 7th of March is incorrect. I've been stating the minutes of the meetings have not been written up correctly. If you read the first statement, notice hereby given to the next ordinary meeting of the Alpine Shire Council will be held at the council chambers, Goat Alpine Road, right, on the 7th of March, commencing at 7 p.m. It didn't start at 7 p.m, you're 15 minutes late. You're in that room there having a meeting for 15 minutes. Your minutes are wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer, for pointing that out.
The next thing is meeting with councillors on a Saturday morning. That has been ongoing for many years. I was told last year it didn't go on, even though you had it in the community booklet, that there was council meetings on a Saturday morning for councillors. My question is, how come it's not in this booklet, the 2017 one? Is there no more meetings for councillors on a Saturday morning, or is it a deliberate attempt to get rid of that?
I'll respond to that, Mr. Dyer. In my time on council, we have never had a formal meeting of a Saturday morning. Councillors are out and about in the public, and they understand that their role as a councillor is to take questions from members of the public. If those members of the public ask the question, they are happy to take those questions, as it is the dedication of my councillors. They will then bring those concerns back to council at the appropriate time. So there's nothing hidden. The councillors are out there on a Saturday morning. I see you out on the streets on Saturday morning, and I'm sure that you have asked questions of councillors, as have other people as they travel the streets and speak to our councillors.
Mr. Mayor, that's not the question I asked.
That is the question I'm answering.
The question I asked is, there council meetings on a Saturday morning. It's been ongoing for years.
Well, I answered that, sir. There are no council meetings on Saturday mornings.
No more.
Thank you.
It's taken out.
Never have been.
There has been.
Not in my time as council. You need to listen to what I say, sir. You need to listen to what I say. Thank you. Sir?
My name's Colin Fraser. I live in Corpunka. You have to excuse me, I've never spoken in public before.
That's all right, Mr. Fraser. Just feel comfortable.
Yes, I'm a bit nervous about this. I've got questions related to the item on the agenda with the speed limits, proposed speed limit change in Station 3 Corpunka. In the recommendation of the council, it stated that the current speed limit of 60 kilometres an hour is in line with the Vic Roads speed zone guidelines. when it's clearly not. On the 10th of February, Council wrote to me and said Alpine Shire Council and Vic Roads officers have inspected the road and assessed the current speed limit against Vic Road speed zone guidelines. As per the guidelines, the default speed limit in the residential area is 50 kilometres an hour. However, as this is the collector road, the limit may be raised to 60 kilometres an hour where certain conditions are met. And the conditions, there's 4 conditions, well, 3 of them are okay. The 4th condition, the council have gone on to say, council is satisfied that the first 3 conditions have been met, and the last condition relates to the views of the local community. It doesn't actually relate to the views of the local community, it specifically relates to the local community support to increase the speed limit, to the default speed limit from 50 to 60. So council are now saying that the default speed limit, the current speed limit is now not within the guidelines. So it's either is or isn't. So my question is, will the recommendation of the council be put now that will you recommend the council that they follow the Vic Road speed zone guidelines and your own assessment using speed limit software from Vic Roads, both saying the speed limit should be 50 kilometres an hour? If not, why not?
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. I think, Mr. Bird, are you able to respond, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess we'll go into more detail in this item at number, what are we, 8.2.3. And our view is that there is community support for the speed limit to be 60 kilometres an hour. So previously, the speed limit along there was 80 kilometres an hour, and at some point it was reduced to 60 kilometres an hour. And we believe at that point in time that there was community support for a 60 kilometre hour speed limit.
Yeah, that was from 80 to 60.
Yep.
Since then, there have been the Vic Road speed zone guidelines that have been put in place, and they're to be reviewed on a regular basis.
Yep. And
the council is supposed to assess each road as it gets built up. And now, this is the collector road, and the built-up area falls within that guidelines of the 50 kilometre zone. It actually, in the guidelines, if you read the guidelines and your own speed limits software report, it'll state that because the report wasn't filled in properly, there's a question missing. Without the question missing, the recommendation was 50 kilometre speed zone in state of Pomaka. Had that question that was missing been put inside, and the question was, is there tourist traffic, pedestrians or cyclists to use the road? That wasn't answered. Well, the answer is yes. Had it been answered yes, the answer would have been the default speed limit should be 50 kilometres an hour or lower.
so I guess that's where we have a different interpretation of the guidelines, Mr. Fraser. And so our view is that it's considering those 3 points, the community support for 60, that 60 was appropriate, and we've gone through a process to review that over the recent months, and a really important part of that is to be gauging community support to retain it at 60 or to reduce it to 50.
Well, I'm only going by what the Vic Road speed zone guidelines say.
Yep.
And they say that a collector road in a built-up area
Yep.
is 50 kilometres an hour.
Yep. So our officers have assessed that. We have liaised with the Vic Roads office as well, and they have confirmed that to be a suitable speed limit.
No, that's not entirely true. What's more likely happened is when I come to see yourself and CEO about the speed on the road, you said you were going to meet with Vic Roads, and what was more likely asked is the speed limit, would you be able to come up, assess the speed limit and make sure it's okay to do 60? And that's what was done.
I can categorically state that is not what happened.
Okay. The speed limit's in Victoria.
Thank you, Mr. Fraser. I don't think we're going to take this conversation anything much further. I understand the point that you've making, and you have contacted each councillor, I understand, by email.
Yes.
Today, and I'm sure that they have taken that into consideration. It's clear that your interpretation of the Vic Roads rules or guidelines differ to our staff, and that will be for the councillors now to determine in their deliberations.
Can I ask another question, please? Am I? On this particular item it means, it says that the community support for the change has been divided. In the absence of overwhelming support from the community for the proposed change, and the absence of traffic engineering principle dictating the speed for a change to the speed limit, it is recommended to retain the 60-kilometre limit. My question is, when Vic Road's speed zone guidelines introduced a 50-kilometre default speed limit for collector roads in the built-up area, that itself dictates the need for change.
And hence we come back to your original argument, and my answer to you is the same.
Okay? And also, in the absence of overwhelming support for a 60-kilometre limit, the Vic Road speed zone guidelines default limit of 50 kilometres an hour should be adopted, because you don't have the overwhelming support of the community to have a 60.
Well, we have evidence that has been presented to council that may well counter your view, sir, and that is the evidence that councillors must evaluate prior to making a decision.
Yes, well, I have asked for this evidence, and some haven't received it. I've had 28 emails to council over a period of 6 months, and I've received 3 emails back, all from council people. No one else bothered. Not good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gentleman down the back.
Good evening all, my name is Bob Adams, I'm a resident of Bright, a ratepayer. I won't argue at all with what's been said, nor will I go into what Mr Fraser said, but surely the fact that 72 residents have signed a petition that lives in that they live in that road has some bearing on your decision as a council. And I'm suggesting that a compromise be made to turn it to 50k, and I'm asking, will a compromise be made to turn it to 50k before, for the time between now and when the footpaths are installed. Remembering, of course, that footpaths were first suggested at Porpunka in 2006. Here we are, 2017, still no footpaths. And now the earliest that council is saying that they're going to provide footpaths is 2021. So that's 4 years. 4 years that people have to put up with walking along the side of the road, driving their little machines with the flags on them on the road when they should be driving on a footpath, and children walking along the road or crossing the road. No drainage along that road, it's wet continually through winter. So to offset the problems that have been created by council not making footpaths, I suggest that a compromise, and we're only talking about 24 seconds between 50k and 60k, and if drivers can't put up with that for the safety of people living in that road, then there's something wrong with our society. And I trust councillors have got as a cornerstone principle to ensure that the safest street facilities for everyone using Station Street is their utmost concern. I'm asking for that compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Adams. Mr Berry.
Just in relation to Mr Adams' comment around footpaths, I guess it's something worth highlighting that, as he well knows, we have a fiscal reality within which we work. For the last 2 years, and again this year, we'll deliver our largest capital works programme that we have ever delivered, while also having our lowest rate increases. So I suppose one thing, and I'm not saying that Mr Adams is suggesting this, but just for the benefit of the wider community, sometimes there's a sense that we just don't want to put footpaths in. There's just a reality that there is only so much capital works we can do in any 1 year. We've got about 450 projects on the go at the moment, and the reality is over time we will deliver more and more footpaths. We spend about $200,000 a year on footpaths, and there are many ones in the queue, unfortunately, ahead of this. So while we would love to do everything at once, There's no, I guess, punitive approach towards any community ever. It is just really a reality of life that there's got to be a time when the funding comes available and the project gets high enough on the priority list. And while we have demands to deliver about 2,000 projects, obviously they will take time for us to deliver in the order of 30 to 40 years to deliver what's currently on our agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Are there any further questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, David Priestley Bright. I submitted 2 questions to council, one of which I might leave for the time being because it will involve council in a fair bit of investigation if they decide to go down that path, and that's in regard to the rental accommodation. The other one is a suggestion that council might like to consider putting entries in for Myrtleford, Mount Beauty and Bright into the Keep Australia Beautiful competition. I walk everywhere, I don't own a vehicle, and you would be amazed at how much rubbish and stuff there is floating around. It looks good when you're driving past in a car, but it's not all that good when you're walking around the streets. So I thought council might like to consider that suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Priestley. Councillors will note your comments. Are there any further questions? No. We've set the rules, Mr. Dyer. I think we've given you a pretty fair go tonight.
The first item of the question are the minutes.
I did allow a statement rather than a question. Presentation of reports by officers. Chief Executive Officer Mr. Barry, there are nil. 8.2.1. Petition, proposed footpath extension in Simmons Creek Road. Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform council and provide a response to a petition for proposed footpath extension in Simmons Creek Road, Toowoomba South. So a petition was received for the footpath extension Simmons Creek Road on the 22nd of February, and it had 62 signatures on that petition. And in that petition they were urging council to approve the extension of the footpath in Simmons Creek and make provision for it in the 2017-18 budget. So there's just a bit of background. The existing footpath was constructed in 2007 and it's 880 metres. And we also received a submission to the draft budget of 2016-17 requesting an extension of that footpath, to which council's response was they made a commitment to scope the footpath extension in this financial year. So the remaining, I guess the point from the existing footpath to the end, to the Annapurna Winery location, is 1,200 metres. And I guess that the following points should be taken into consideration. So the primary concern of the proponent of the petition was around the safety of pedestrians and bicycle riders. There are new subdivisions planned for up the end of the road there for up to 20 residential lots. However, the development plans and timing are uncertain. The cost of constructing the complete 1,200 metre length is in the order of $600,000, including drainage. It's quite a difficult route to install the path along that entire length. And another point to take into account is that, which Mr. Barry referred to earlier, around our financial constraints, and by bringing this project forward, it would defer other projects. So over there, the council's previously its highest priority project has been a shared trail / path project, has been the Pebble Beach to Dams Road footpath extension to Mount Beauty, which you've been working on this year, scoping that out. But to this point, it's proving difficult to get stakeholder support there, with a number of landholders that have waterfront licence holders. So we have, it's fine, we've consulted with a number of the residents along the Simmons Creek Road, and I think we've had 2 occasions there we met with a delegate of the residents there as well. We've provided an update or an overview to the council at a briefing session. And finally, the recommendation is that council note the petition for a proposed footpath extension Simmons Creek Road, Toowoomba South, and include a provision of $100,000 in next year's capital works budget to construct a new footpath only 170 metres long along the high priority sections of the Simmons Creek Road, and including associated drainage works to complete that footpath. And note that the remaining sections, which is just over 1 kilometre long, is would cost in the order of $500,000, and also to advise the main proponent of the petition of council's decision.
Move and second, please.
I'll move that.
Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Forsyth.
Look, in the absence of our 2 Kiewa Valley councillors, I'll move this particular one. Having driven along Simmons Creek Road, it's understandable with the very narrow shoulders as to why something has to be done along this area. As it's been pointed out tonight, the $100,000 to do 170 metres, these are the high priority areas, and I just think that this, if we can get this completed, and then I'm hoping also, on behalf of the 2 Kiewa Valley guys, that there'll be some road crossings then when we get down into Toowoomba as well to complement this. So, yeah, that's all I'd like to say about it, but I think it's a good recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Nicholas. Any further comment? None? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous, carried. Thank you. Uh, 8.2.2, dealing with the petition to reduce the speed limit on Redbank and Mullagong Road in Coral Creek. Mr. Bird?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's the second petition. The purpose of this report is to inform council and provide a response to a petition received to reduce the speed limit from 100 kilometres an hour to 60 kilometres an hour and install associated signage on Redbank and Mullagong roads in Coralbank in Kiewa Valley. So the petition was tabled at the February council meeting and was signed by 188 residents and visitors to the area. The Redbank and Mullagong roads are defined as a collector road in council's road management plan, and this section of the road provides access to a local winery, a quarry, and also the Mongans Bridge caravan park. So I guess it's a general statement. Officers try to understand the nature and location of the risks, consider appropriate localised infrastructure improvements to manage potential conflicts, and where possible, make infrastructure improvements within the speed zones that are consistent with the Vic Roads guidelines. And accordingly, council officers have determined that a more localised intersection treatment and a reduction to an 80 km/h speed limit would be more an appropriate solution for this area. And so council officers have worked closely with the main proponent of the petition and also with Victoria Police as well, and both are supportive of the recommendation, which is the council recommend to Vic Roads a reduction in the maximum speed limit from 100 km/h to 80 km/h for the area nominated, and also support the installation of a roundabout treatment, a pin down roundabout, at the intersection of Bay Creek Lane, Redbank Road and Mullagong Road, and support the installation of associated statutory signage and advise the main proponent of the petition of the outcome.
Thank you. Move and a seconder, please. Councillor Nicholas. Second to Councillor Peters. Thank you. Councillor Nicholas.
Echoing a little bit Councillor Forsyth's comments earlier, having ridden a bicycle and driven around the Mongans Bridge area, I think it's very appropriate that the speed limit's reduced.
Councillor Peters.
Nothing to add to that.
Nothing to add. Thank you. Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. So I note, Mr. Bird, that you're going to get a roundabout there before Myrtleford.
That's possible. Depends how quickly council officers implement that roundabout, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. I think it's well worth having it down there,
We're giving back.
giving back. We move to 8.2.3 petition, reduce the speed limit on Station Street, Port Punker, and I think it's again you, Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to inform council and provide a response to the request to reduce the speed limit on Station Street, Port Punker from 60 km/h to 50 km/h to improve the safety of pedestrians, school children, cyclists and all other road users. So a petition was received and tabled at the November council meeting, and the petition was signed by 75 residents, and there's been quite a lot of consultation that's been undertaken since then, hence it's taken this long to come to the April council meeting. And so Station Street is defined as a collector road in council's road management plan, which primarily provides a route between through residential, industrial, agricultural, tourist and forest traffic nodes. And there has been quite a lot of discussion to date with the main proponent of the petition. There's been significant engagement there, and we've also discussed this matter with Victoria Police and Vic Roads as well. So as pointed out earlier today, reducing the speed limit from 60 to 50 km/h in the stretch of road would increase the travel time by 24 seconds. However, council's view is that, I guess, looking at the geometry of it, the sight lines, the width of the road, etc., that a 60 km/h speed limit is appropriate. And as it's been discussed during question time today, the most important bit there is the final point is around community support for a 60 km/h zone. So, bearing this in mind, the consultations taken by officers have been extensive. We've undertaken an online survey. We have received feedback via Facebook. We have received written feedback as well, and we've also had face-to-face information sessions, and also undertaken a mail-out survey to Port Punker residents, which was based on feedback that we received at a face-to-face information session. So the results we received online and also from the mail-out survey are in the order of 55 to 59% of respondents do not support proposed speed reduction to 50 km/h. And there's further detail around about the online survey results, which is due to some of the discrepancies which were identified in there. The data needs to be cleansed, and that goes into more detail in the council report.
Mr Mayor, can I just maybe highlight what that discrepancy was, just in case it's vague, which is we did notice that a whole heap of submissions came from one person, because we were able to look at their IP address and that they had, we don't know who that person is, we hazard a guess, but they had repeatedly copied and pasted the same listing in, because we could see some of the copying and pasting errors, and continued to submit requests oftentimes in the order of 1 minute apart. So they had figured out a way around the system to duplicate the requests. So what we did is we distilled that back to no more than 2 requests per property, which is probably taking a conservative approach. A more realistic approach, which would further sway the stats to more people in favour of the 60 limit, would have been to adopt a 1 request per property approach. But that just gives you a little bit of insight into that, I think, legitimate correction.
Thank you, Mr Barrett.
Thank you.
So what was also interesting to note was the feedback from local community members that we received around the reduction of speed limit, and primarily 2 issues were identified. One was that pedestrians are using the shoulder of the road, and we've heard that earlier this evening, and also speeding traffic and the need for, the vehicles travelling faster than 60 km/h. And we did receive feedback, well, it doesn't matter what speed limit you set up, people will continue to speed. So in light of all of that, what our recommendation is that council retain the existing speed limit of 60 km/h and note that the footpaths in Station Street, Port Punker, including council's project pipeline, with an indicative implementation timeframe of 2021-22 to 2025-26, and continue to advocate Victoria Police to improve adherence to the 60km/h speed limit on Station Street and advise the main proponent of the petition of council decision.
I so move.
Councillor Pearce moves. Who was seconded? Councillor Epstein. Councillor Pearce.
Well, the first thing I'd say is I've been down the road many a time, but I went down the other week and drove it 2 or 3 times. I found it was straight with wide verges. I don't think the weather affects it that much on the sides, Bob. There's plenty of room, and I think the responsibility lays with the driver in particular, but also the pedestrians have their own life to look after. So I think, you know, if it was a windy little track with a few hills here and made it dangerous, I'd probably have no problem putting it back to 50. But I think how far do we have to go with continually to decrease the speed? Shouldn't we just maybe block the road off so we don't have any cars on there? So I think the recommendation's okay.
Thank you. Councillor Epstein.
I'm not personally affected by the speed limit there, and I have sympathy with the people that wish to have it reduced, the locals. I can see that there's an emotional argument there. I can also see the reasoning behind people who wish to have the speed left at 60, not reduced. I don't live there, and I think that the main traffic should really go with the Great Alpine Road. So it's a sort of a choice thing. But I think when I read, and I'm convinced by the argument that the data has been corrupted and that people were trying to unfairly sway the argument in their favour, then I'm thinking that down the track it may morph to a road that becomes 50k per hour. But at the moment, because of that, weighted data being tweaked, I'll vote in favour of it remaining at 60k per hour.
Thank you. Any further comment? Councillor Pearce, do you need to respond? Councillor Nicholas.
I'd like to ask Mr. Bird a question. Just to clarify, did Alpine Shire Council staff attend with Vic Roads officers at Station Street to look?
So I don't know whether Vic Roads, or I don't know whether our officers met on site with the Vic Roads officers. We had a meeting here. We have a quarterly traffic liaison meeting with them here, and my understanding was that the Vic Roads officers went there directly after the meeting and assessed it. Could have been on the way here, but I'm pretty sure it was on the way. It was on the way after the meeting, on the way back to Benalla. So I don't know whether our officers were there with them.
I'll just ask anyway. They have done a physical assessment of the road.
Yes, definitely.
Very good. It being no further discussion, we'll take it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? Carried. Um, 8.3.1 or 8.3 Director Corporate, Ms Cook, Mayoral and Councillor Alliance Review.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Section 74 of the Local Government Act specifies that councils must review and determine the level of councillor and mayoral allowances prior to 30th of June in the year following general election. In discussion, Council has determined to intend to effectively freeze councillor and mayoral allowances over the 4-year term by adopting a decrease of 5% to the current value of allowances. This, in effect, removes what is an annual adjustment factor that is applied through regulation to these allowances. Therefore, the recommendation that we're putting to Council is, having reviewed the council and mayoral allowances in accordance to the Local Government Act at section 74(1), that we actually apply this 5% decrease to the current value of those allowances, thereby setting the allowance values as outlined in the recommendation on the screen. These allowance values are subject to Section 223 consultation arrangements under the Local Government Act. So as a part of this recommendation, a committee would be formed according to this section to enable councillors to hear submissions in relation to these allowances. These allowances will then be, these submissions will then be considered prior to any allowances being set going forward.
Can we just, Scott, that's it, so we can all see that. Thank you. Councillor Nicholas moves.
Second.
Councillor Forsyth, that's your plan.
Aye.
Councillor Nicholas?
I think that it's great that all the councillors agree to support staff in maintaining a really tight fiscal rein.
Councillor Forsyth?
I don't think I could have said it in less words myself.
What do you see?
Is there any further comment? All those in favour? Unanimous, carried. Thank you. And might I commend my councillors in taking that that action to support the staff.
And may we commend you because you've taken the biggest slide.
Yeah, I do more work than you. Councillor Pierce. Some might say not. 8.3.2, draft Alpine Shire Council Plan incorporating the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan. Ms Cook?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Section 125 of the Local Government Act again requires council to prepare and approve a council plan within the period of 6 months after the general election, or by the next 30th of June date, whichever comes later. Council must ensure that the draft council plan is also made available for public comment. This report provides for the release of the draft council plan for public exhibition and outlines the process for submissions going forward. The recommendations of this report actually release the plan itself, outline that public notice will be given in accordance with the section of the Act, and allows for a committee to be formed under Section 223 of the Local Government Act to enable submissions to be heard on the draft council plan. Appended to this report at the back of the documentation is a draft of the actual council plan for further consultation.
I'd like to move an alternate recommendation which retains the 3 dot points that are on the screen but adds as dot point 1, my glasses on, that in strategic objective 2 of the council plan, which is titled A Responsible and Sustainable Organisation, an extra dot point is added to the strategy section which reads, continue to focus on balancing financial, environmental and community outcomes. The council continues to. That's to recognise the environmental achievements of Alpine Shire Council to date and support future initiatives.
Okay, so we have that new recommendation up there, moved by Councillor Nicholas and seconded by Councillor Pierce. Councillor Nicholas?
I think I said enough.
Okay. Councillor Pierce?
I think I said enough.
Fair enough. Any further comment?
Yeah, look, I'll just make a comment on this one, and I understand Councillor Nicholas for proposing this, simply to bring in the term environmental into this plan, even though when you look around, I believe that the Alpine Shire is very green. I don't think we've actually stated it, probably somewhere. So I think by including it now, it opens up a bit of a conversation. And please, for the general public, if you've got any submissions to make on the council plan along those lines, please, that's what we're looking for, because these will be things that we'll be looking at in the future. We need to tweak it a bit more. I think we've got our business, our house in order as far as business goes. Now we need to look at those other things as well, the social, community and also the environmental. Thank you.
Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those of you who have a hard copy of our agenda item, you'll probably notice a small discrepancy, extremely small. I will point it out to you. It's in paragraph 3 where it says the committee to be formed according to section 223(1)(b) of the Local Government Act if required, consisting of councillors, and it has written there, and direct, so that there's a small amendment to what you have and what is on the screen, and that's the reason. It's not a task of directors, it's a task of council. So I just wanted to clarify that. Take that to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. Thank you. One with all, we have a good interest in council revaluation. Ms Cook again, I think.
So moved.
Oh, hang on. We have a mover already. Councillor Forsyth. Seconder? Councillor Knapstein? Councillor Forsyth?
After extensive conversations with our current CEO, pardon me, when you read into this a bit further, you'll find that we're up for a cost of $139,000 to have this done. And Mr Barry has informed me that he's tried desperately in the past to get this reduced, but without success. We're bound by legislation, I believe, to have this done every 2 years. It's an impost on us, it's an impost on you guys. It's a revenue raiser, I believe, for the state government. New South Wales, I think, is every 5 years. Somewhere else, England or somewhere, is 10 years. We've got to do it. Nothing we can say about it. Sorry.
Thank you. No, nothing from you, Councillor Knapstein. Councillor Pearce?
Yeah, Councillor Forsyth did mention every 10 years in England, which I think is great. Almost as great as 5 years in New South Wales, every 2 years here. 140,000 over 2 years is 0.5% rate rise in itself just for the bill. So my advice, and I've said this to the evaluators and I've done it, is keep the front of your house filthy when they're coming round, and get a few old car bodies out the front of your car, and don't mow your lawn for a week, a month, and hopefully it works.
Thank you, Councillor. There's a novel approach to our...
Is that a recommendation?
I don't know whether that fits in with the last one with about the environment.
No, it doesn't.
However, we might have to discuss that a little later.
What I was trying to say is it's almost useless, but we have to follow the rules.
Fair enough. We'll take it to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Knapstein, yes?
Yeah, oh,
Please,
yes,
thank you.
definitely yes.
It's unanimous and carried. 8.3.4 Special Rate Dinner Plane Services, public notice of proposed declaration. I understand that this matter is to be deferred.
Give some background
Thank
behind
you.
that. While we think the recommendation is about spot on, something that causes me a bit of discomfort is that the rate in the dollar mentioned is based on our projected rate increase, which Council will determine next month, which is based on a projected 1.9% rate increase. Council may choose to increase rates at up to 2%, or potentially may choose to go lower than 1.9%. And what that means is if that happens, then ratepayers in Dinner Plain are not going to be treated equitably with the rest of the Shire. Now, the level of inequity would be dollars. However, we think that just for the sake of ensuring that they are treated absolutely equitably in terms of the rate of the dollar for a commercial business in Dinner Plain matching the rate in the dollar for a commercial business throughout the rest of the Shire being exactly paralleled, we're not under time pressure to declare the special rate, so that it's probably best to defer it for a month. So we're in Council's hands in that regard, but hopefully that info's of use.
Thank you. Can I have a I don't know if I need to move it, but I will.
Defer it?
To defer to the
Yeah, I'll
May
move to
council
defer.
meeting.
I'll move to defer.
I second.
Okay, councillor Forsyth. Councillor Nicholas. All those in favour? Any other further comments? I really should ask, but...
No more, no comment.
Okay, all those in favour? It's carried.
Already made it.
8.3.5, contract transportation and disposal of waste from Myrtleford Transfer Station. Ms Cook?
This report, thank you Mr Mayor, relates to the awarding of a contract for the collection, transportation and disposal of waste from Myrtleford Transport Station. It's coming to council because the CEO's delegation threshold of $150,000 has been exceeded under this contract. The recommendation is that the contract for the removal of this waste from Myrtleford Transfer Station is awarded to L Waste, Waste and Recycling Services for an initial 3-year term with the addition of 3 one-year extensions in option. The cost of the tender for the first year, which is based on an estimated waste volume per tonnage cost, is $380,000 plus GST. The submissions for this tender were evaluated according to key selection criteria, which was listed in the invitation to tender, being price, qualification, previous performance, delivery and social factors. And following an assessment process, it has been determined that the tender from L Waste, Waste and Recycling Service best met the selection criteria. The recommendation is up on the screen.
Thank you. Could we have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Nicholas? Councillor Pearce, thank you. Councillor Nicholas?
I think one of the good environmental things that the Alpine Show has done over the years, more recent years, is to change the way the waste stream is managed, and this is part of it. And the procurement process is thorough, and I fully support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce?
Was here.
Councillor, no. Left side, Councillor Forsyth, no. Just a point of what I'd like to know is, did we have local businesses put in a submission for the contract?
Yes, I believe we did.
Thank you. We'll take it to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous and carried. Thank you.
Also move.
Very good. That's item 9, I take it.
Item 9, yeah.
Yep.
Also move.
Councillor Pearce, Councillor Nicholas, all those in favour? Debate? No.
Nil.
Nil. General business from my left.
No general business for me.
Councillor Nicholas.
No general business from me either.
Councillor Forsyth.
No, not tonight.
Councillor Epstein.
I'd just like to commend the staff at the council for keeping everybody informed with what's happening with the traffic flow and everything to do with Mafeking Square. I'd also like to compliment them because it has been disruptive, and I think we're starting to see what it looks like, and I've noted that the negative commentary is subsiding as people can see what's emerging from the thing. And I'd just like to say it wasn't being fixed because it was broken, it was just being made better.
Oh, just remembered something, please, Mr Mayor.
Certainly, Councillor.
Thanks, Kitty, because yesterday Kitty and I spent a good part of the day going all round the works at Mafeking Square, and then later in the day the CEO and I went down to Port Bunker to look at what's going on down there, and I commend the workers that are doing the job, that things are coming together, and I think they're doing a fantastic job.
Very good. Thank you. I have no general business myself. I just want to reiterate that next month's meeting, or I'll bring it up, I should bring it up at the end, but I'll just mention it now, that we were to have it in Mount Beauty but because this will be Mr Barry's last meeting with us, we will have it here. I'm afraid so. Yes, all good things come to an end.
And bad things as well, Mr Mayor.
We'll remain on the positive. But we will have our meeting. We will have our meeting in Mount Beauty in August, I think it was, Mary. Yeah, August. Make sure you got the heaters on, please. Motions for which notice has previously been given, nil, and reception and reading of petitions, there are nil. Documents for sealing, a recommendation that the following documents be signed and sealed. Councillor Pearce and Councillor Nicholas, thank you. All those in favour? Carried. There being no further business, I declare the meeting closed at, I think that's 8 o'clock, what I can see. 8:02, thank you. Thank you for your attendance. Have a safe trip home this evening, and we'll see you again next month. Thank you.